Well, Jim, let's get away from some sad news. Let's get to some, let's get to some sadder news. Let's get a review out of the way. Did you watch AEW Dynamite this past week?
Oh, boy, I sure did.
The final Dynamite of 2022.
Yes, New Year's Smash, was it? Or New Year's Crash, whatever. There were a couple. We're not going to go into minute detail because it's been a while, but I wanted to recognize a couple of things, either for positive or negative. Bryan Danielson again showed why he's one of the most valuable wrestlers in the world for any company. He got 20 minutes out of the other page, and it was good. And I know you say, I'll give Ethan Page a chance. Well, I got to be honest with you. I'm not going to give him a fucking chance because we saw where his mental state is about wrestling when he did the thing in Impact with the green screen. And he's one of the cosplay, childish, silly, fun fucking people in wrestling. So I don't particularly give a fuck. But fortunately, I don't have to turn a blind eye to a future Braun Breaker or Austin Theory because, you know, besides the fact that he showed me what he thinks about the business mentally, there's nothing there to overcome that. He's got okay size. He's got an physique. He does promos where he tries too hard. He's got one gear. His work is and it's nothing to make me think, oh, God, if only he could channel that power for good. But in this case, he had the best match I've ever seen him have with Danielson because that's what Danielson does. He takes these kids. He not only doesn't let them do anything stupid or nonsensical, and he still does the dives, but they fit where they come and they don't just look so stupid. And more importantly, he controls the pace and he knows when to bring it up and down and when to tell these guys, you know, come on or cut me off or do this or whatever. And that's why that people get better when they work with guys who know how to do that. And Danielson just also happens to be one of the darlings of the typical AEW fun and silly crowd. He's managed to bridge that gap. And he can be, in some cases, kind of fun and silly, but it fits him in most cases. I know they'll do something to prove me wrong. But in the ring, he does a modern style, but he does it with legitimate psychology and perks everything up. So I like this match. I would have liked it if he'd had it with anybody else. And I got to mention MJF being in the skybox, by the way, with the quote, only hot chick in Colorado. That was a nice touch, but we just heard him at the start, and then he was never. Did I miss something later in the show or later in the match? That was it. He was just up there watching that match, and then he powdered.
I was hoping he would be doing running commentary throughout the show. That would have made it a lot more watchable, although it was a good episode.
But, man,
I like the match. I like the match. I think Ethan Page is really good, and he has not done anything at the Impact level since he has left Impact. And look, desperate people do desperate things. If you're in Impact, you're not there because you want to be there. You're there because you're stuck there, and you have to find a way out. And, you know, I wish he hadn't done that green screen stuff, but I have not seen him do anything like that since. I didn't even see that. I only heard about that because it happened in Impact.
Somebody tweeted me 60 seconds of it. It was enough.
I have not seen anything else remotely like that ever since. The stuff I have seen, I've really liked.
No, they said it wasn't him trying to get out. They said it was his idea. He complained afterwards they edited it poorly. It would have been so much better, him wrestling himself, if it had been edited right.
Well, I don't want to discuss how a filmmaker's plot was destroyed by editing. You know, who knows what really happened there.
Well, maybe one of these days we'll see the director's cut.
Really good match. What do you think of the way Stokely's being used?
Okay, I was going to mention, first of all, Stokely needs a look, a consistent, important look. He was out there wearing the baseball cap, and I know they worked a spot where he got up on the apron and Danielson knocked his baseball cap off. And he may have had some really stylish slacks on. I'm not sure, but he was wearing a fucking blue patterned collared shirt and a baseball cap. And when he was standing on the other side of the rings, you only see him from the waist up. It looked like a fucking, an attendant from Biloxi, Mississippi in 1984 had wandered to the ring. I'm not saying he needs to dress in a suit and tie. I'm not saying he needs to wear the same thing every time. I'm not saying he needs to look stylish, because Lord knows I didn't do that either in a stylish fashion or wear the same thing every time. But he needs a concept. Who are you? And when you dress that way or in that variety of ways, I still know you're important. I still know you look like somebody, and it's different or it's eye-catching or consistent. I know who you are. You see what I'm saying? And, they're doing manager spots with him. I don't know how long he's been managing or whether he's ever been around, any other managers or whatever the fuck. But there's no heat on it. He doesn't lead an established stable. There's no real heat on him because he does a great promo, but he hadn't really done anything heinous to anybody or anything that anybody really cared about. Remember, I've said if you have an unknown manager you bring into a company, you put him with a main event talent and it elevates him. If you have an unknown talent you want to be a main event guy, you put him with a main event manager. But Stokely kind of showed up along at the same time as well. Here's this group of individuals that have been bopping about here to little, if any, effect for a while, and now they're all together, and Stokely may be telling them what to do, but it's not really clear because he's out with this guy and that guy, and all of them are basically not really that fucking important.
And remember, when he first showed up, after not really being used well in NXT, but still kind of standing out for the limited times we got to see him, he was with Jade. He was the replacement manager for Mark Sterling.
Yeah.
With Jade. And then all of a sudden he just wasn't with Jade. And every week with Jade, I think if he didn't wear a suit, in my head he did. And then since then he's been dressing like he's on vacation with Big Bill and the boys.
Oh, Big Bill. So, but anyway, this match, Page and Danielson. They had a great match, and finally, I guess I can say even a blind squirrel finds a nut. Page had a good match also. He found his nut there. But by the same token, the finish was Danielson slipped the power slam that he'd been hit with a couple of times, hit the stomps, and got a crossface, and Page was already out. He'd already stomped him out. So it kind of, he didn't tap or anything. Again, all the finishes just these days come out of nowhere and just kind of, there you go. There's no 1, 2, 3, yay! It's all, the guy's unconscious. Okay.
Well, that's like a Danielson kind of finish. But I really like this match. Let me ask you one question about it, because even though Paige was in it, you seem to at least have enjoyed it a little bit. Did you have any issue with the length of the match? I didn't, because I really liked it. But I have to acknowledge it went a while.
It was 20 minutes. It didn't drag because it kept moving, and you didn't see the same shit over and over, but you didn't see 100 things every 30 seconds to make you numb to everything. The match evolved, and Danielson obviously was calling the whole fucking thing. He kept it interesting. The break spot, because they went through a break, that's when they used Stokely, where he came up and Danielson knocked his hat off and then sidestepped as Page was charging, and Page almost hit Stokely, but then Danielson drop-kicked Page to the floor and hit a dive and tossed him back in, and Stokely distracted him so Page could stop him. So they come back on the other side with heat. But then Danielson's coming back out from... They kept it alive. It was up and down.
What did you think of Stokely getting on the apron? Because it was almost like he got in Danielson's face as opposed to the other way around.
Well, again, they're doing manager spots, but I don't know if they're explaining manager motivation or reaction because, again, like you said, he didn't pop up on the apron to either distract the referee or even necessarily to distract his man's opponent. Come here, look at me, and then I'll jump down because I'm scared of you. He just stood there and went face to face with Danielson. If I had done that with Dusty, he would have given me the fucking bionic elbow. And if it hadn't been called for at that time, then he would have been mad at me afterwards that I made him give me the bionic elbow and fucked up the finish potentially where I was supposed to take another bump. But now I've already taken a bump. Well, now you've taken a bump for the finish, you fucking idiot. Why did you stand there where I could get you? That kind of thing. But nobody acts like they're scared of the baby faces anymore, managers and valets and whatever the fuck. But that, again, did they tell him, well, get up and distract Danielson? But he doesn't know that, okay, I'm supposed to lure him this way and make him turn his back, but not to face him down. And why did Brian, one would think that the hat spot was fucking called. Well, I would have thought that maybe Brian would have said, look, when you get up, I'll snatch you. Because now when the babyface lays hands on the manager, he's immobilized. Even a hand, he's immobilized. Now you got time. If the manager is in front of the babyface doesn't have a hand on him, then the manager should run away, or elsewise the babyface should hit him, or the manager should be cowering or whatever the fuck. But once the babyface, and you can't stay that way long, once the babyface lays a hand on you, now to the people, he's got him. So now I can cower worse and I can shiver and shake because I can't get away, even if he's just holding on to the corner of my jacket. And the babyface has time to look at the people and ball his fist up and say, should I knock this motherfucker out and make sure they're all coming up? And then the guy's coming from behind. And the babyface moves in the nick of time and boom, either you hit or you stop short and then the babyface does his thing, blah, blah, blah. But to stand there with nobody, with Danielson not holding Stokely not being scared, and Danielson not doing anything but then finally just flipping his hat off, it was kind of odd.
He wasn't afraid at all. That was the thing that really stood out.
Maybe he had a gun in his pocket. I don't know, but he should show it.
I don't know if he had a gun in his pocket, but
he was just probably glad to see Brian.
A promising open to Dynamite, a good match.
Well, yeah, then they followed that up with Wardlow and Samoa Joe, a package on the match, and Wardlow's in the back doing an interview, and he said 5 words, and then Joe came in with a lead pipe and hit him in the fucking knee and kneecapped him like Kerrigan and fucking Tanya. And this was so fake. So they went from good quality wrestling to cable access bullshit. And how many fights and attacks in the back have we had over the last month on this program alone?
What do you think of Wardlow's wardrobe choices?
Well,
he was wearing like a sweater like he was Mr. Rogers.
It was like an alpaca fucking zip-up thing of some, I don't know. Maybe do they still print GQ magazine?
I don't know.
Maybe he got an endorsement deal. I'm moving through this shit. We'll come back to Wardlow.
Okay.
I'm moving through this shit quickly. We'll come back to Wardlow, believe me, though. Moxley and Claudio against Dante and Darius Martin. Who the fuck are we supposed to cheer for?
Top Flight.
And the baby faces, Top Flight, attacked the other baby faces, Moxley and Claudio, before the bell. But Moxley and Claudio immediately took over and they had a big 4-way on the floor. And then the baby faces, Moxley and Claudio, started getting heat on the other faces where they rang the bell and beat him up and wouldn't let him get his jacket off. So we're back to AEW again. Again, it's great to beat the heel up, the dastardly heel, and not let him get his jacket. What did these kids do? These wonderful young baby-faced, fresh, freckled children. Anyway, at the finish, Claudio knocked one out with elbows, and Moxley gave the other one a DDT on the floor. And when he popped up from the DDT, he gave a finger to the camera and mouthed, "Fuck you," for all the lip readers out there. And then Claudio beat the other one flat in the middle with an uppercut forearm. So are Moxley and Claudio going to be heels? Is Moxley going to switch heel and work with Claudio? Are they just going to act like that they're not heels, or I don't know. Should we have made Moxley a garbage man and not a plumber?
Hey, Steve Austin had an evil boss. What is Moxley so mad at?
Nothing. Steve Austin didn't get Taka Michinoku in the ring and just kick his teeth out of his mouth. That's the point. It doesn't.
I actually liked the match. I actually liked it more than most Moxley matches, probably because Claudio was his partner, and I shouldn't say most of the time, but I typically like tag team storytelling a little better than singles match storytelling. Not that this was a perfect tag team match or anything, but I like Top Flight. I think they're really good. I'm sure there's a reason why Moxley's working with them on TV and beating them on TV.
Well, I like them too. So I'm just wondering why two of the other baby faces on the roster beat the shit out of them, knocked one of them completely cold with elbows, while the other one got brain damage by a DDT on the floor, and then Moxley also making sure gets on TBS this week, and then just beating them flat in the middle and fucking standing over them. Why to piss in their mouth while they're down there? It
was right after this match that I tweeted out, this show's been pretty good so far.
Well, then up came the Puddin' Gang and Pockets and Danhausen and Pip and Penelope all together. And if I didn't know that the little fucking sleazeball was from the United Kingdom, I would think the accent is fake, because everything else looks fake. It's like they're ribbing him now. No wonder he had a box on his head for a year. He's got fucking sky blue hair and a weird accent, and he's dressing weird, and he's got Penelope Pitstop standing next to him with that vacant stare on her face, and with the psychedelic Puddin' Gang now with Danhausen. What the fuck? This was embarrassing.
The whole thing was like dress up. If you had the TV on mute and you were just watching, you would not instantly go, pro wrestling would probably not even be in your top 5 picks. What is this? It's a horror show. It's some kind of new comedy show on TBS.
No, it's Nickelodeon.
Or Nickelodeon. Well, you would know you were on TBS if you actually knew what channel you were on, at least.
Well, then TBS. Well, look, now they're showing highlights from Nickelodeon on TBS.
Hey, you and I have not been a fan of Orange Cassidy since the very beginning. And I've said this a little while ago. I want to know your thoughts right now. Has he ever been colder? For the people that justify his existence in AEW for how much the fans love him and he moves merch and people dress like him, does he mean anything right now?
What?
They're burying him on Rampage anyway. What does that tell you?
I can't bring myself to mouth the words he ever meant anything anyway. I will say that some of their more faithful fans were blinded by the mass hypnosis and cheered him when he came out. I don't know that he ever sold a ticket or got a tenth of a ratings point. I think that's been random chance. But now, no. How often can you hear Captain Lou Albano's jokes? Hope that shirt's waterproof, or
Penis Van Lesbian.
Penis Van Lesbian. It wasn't funny the first time, really, but but then after that, it's the same thing. It's the same fucking thing. For all those people say he can really wrestle. No, he can't, because we've seen a bunch of him trying now, and he's a self-trained goofball off a trampoline, just like we figured. He hits the ropes more like Twinkle Toes than a goddamn wrestler. So he can flip around with his hands in his pockets, go to America's Got Talent, sleep in the parking lot, and you'll get 90 seconds to show him that you can do a nip up and a drop kick with your hands in your pockets. But anyway, we got to find out what the deal is, by the way. And Hook beat somebody and Stokely's heels came out. And we're going to kill him, and Jungle Boy made the save, including Big Bill, who's 7'7" or whatever. And
he's not that big.
He's not going to be
he's
any
not
bigger.
Really big.
He's not going to be any bigger than he is right now either. Yeah. Swerve and Parker Boudreaux and Tatface. We have got to find out what flavor of moron this fucking guy is. His entire face is tattooed. He's got the weird hair. I don't think they're fake tattoos either. I think he's obviously either been in a Turkish prison or he's a fucking mental case. But we got to find out what exactly this guy's fucking specific malfunction is, because I guarantee this is going to be one of those. We'll see him on TMZ or somewhere in about 6 months. I guarantee you. Putting a guy that already fucking is obviously mentally short-circuited into that fucking clown show of a wrestling promotion. Holy mackerel, something's going to happen.
Forget about all that. If we go back to last week's Angle segment, which was an all-time bad one, with all-time bad, I don't know if it was a bad script or if these guys were out there doing improv, but it was just not good in any way.
None of that was written down or prepared, I guarantee you.
Well, it was terrible in the most delightful way. What about this being the follow-up a week later? They gave that a whole long segment. It went a long time. And we saw this whole thing play out in a really awkward way. And then they get a minute, 90 seconds the next week, nothing else to follow this up, to explain anything, to make anyone who saw that last week and says, I can't wait to see what happens next week. There has to be one fan out there that saw that was like, oh shit, Rick Ross has a crew. What's going to happen next week? And then nothing happened. No follow-up.
Well, I wouldn't have done it this way, because after last week's segment, I would have barred everybody involved from ever appearing on a television I was responsible for again. However, if they were going to follow it up, standing backstage with Swerve with a kind of a vacant look, talking about these two weirdos that obviously can't work. We saw that last week. And at least Boudreaux's got a lot of tattoos, but he didn't cover his cheek and forehead, at least yet.
He also sells his own stuff. Every time he delivered a blow, his whole body would shake like he got hit.
He would convulse in tremors of ecstasy from it or whatever. But then Keith Lee's the one they beat up and hospitalized, whatever. And out comes, or in comes, because they're backstage, Wheeler Useless and that whiny voice promo with no real emotion, trying to tell off these, my God, it looked like a fucking Boy Scout trying to sell cookies door to door at a goddamn biker gang. So why didn't they just, because nobody else has any restraint, when he's standing there going, well, you guys, why didn't they just fucking smite him? He told him off.
Yeah, Claudio and Moxley got rid of him quick. They were out there earlier. Where was Yuta?
Yeah, well, he was getting dirt on Tatface and his fucking bunch. Well, but Rick Ross is probably overseeing this from afar, right? We're not going to see him every week, apparently. So then, did you just enjoy the number 4,726 in the best of 7 series between the Buckaroos and Twinkle Toes McFingerbang and the Bermuda Triangle? They didn't even need the ring this time, because they don't know what to do once they get in it on a normal basis. But since it was a Falls Count Anywhere match, this was inventive. The match started in the back with a phony 6-way fight with the corpse referee standing there waving his arms. And it was between 4 and 5 minutes before they ever even got to the ring. They started in the back. They did again, backstage fights or back of the arena fights or fights in an odd location other than the ring used to lead to huge money when it was done as an angle between main event guys. Then you never saw anything like it in that particular territory or on that program for years before or years afterwards. That's why it drew money. This is overdone, hokey, phony bullshit. And they don't even try to put any creativity in it. And I know some people are going to be saying, oh, but they're so creative. Well, Felix says, if I run up the bleacher seats and flip over backwards, can the two of you catch me so I can hurrah your Rana? That's not creativity. The creativity of these things is making it look legitimate, making a preposterous thing look somehow posterous, putting stuff there not where they're doing flips and fancy moves in a fight in a building or in an arena or a parking lot or a garage or whatever the fuck, but to make the shit look good and legitimate and like it could actually happen with things that are sitting around in their natural environment. If you're in a garage, you've got road signs or you've got goddamn a tire or cars or whatever the case in that environment, whatever's natural. There's where the creativity comes in, trying to make people believe it. And there's none of that from these 6 nitwits, because there's none of that in this company, because there's none of that in this wrestling. They just run each other into walls and stacks of chairs and shit that's sitting there and bounce off of it and attempt to do moves in places where you shouldn't ought to do moves. And then finally they get to the ring and they go to the break. Because now that the wrestlers are in the ring, they're not going to have anything to do. So we'll just go to commercial. And it was a 6-way the whole time. You could even see on the on-screen speed search that I was utilizing, garbage cans, constant fighting on the floor, bunch of goofy bumps, bunch of rotten work for 20 fucking minutes. At the same time as the first match didn't get old, this was the same thing constantly over and over for 20 fucking minutes. And the finish, for those of you who were lucky enough not to see this thing, old Pac had a submission hold on one of his opponents in the ring. I can't remember which one of the buckaroos it was, Cucamonga 1 or Cucamonga 2. But meanwhile, old Harpo Fingerfuck in the back of the arena gave Felix the one-winged fairy off the balcony through tables and covered him there, and he was counted out 1, 2, 3. What a fucking mess. Do you have anything else to add, or can we move on?
You know, I like the previous 2 weeks' matches, although I was high when I watched them. I really didn't like this one at all. Of course, this was the one that got the highest rating in The Observer, which surprised the hell out of me out of all these matches. But no, I've said good things about the last couple. I did not like this one.
Well, you were high before, and after I saw this, I was mighty low. But I'll have you know that well, let's save it because it may be a separate topic, because I've heard there's been feedback, but the Acclaimed did a rap video mocking and knocking Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. And it may have started, so we'll come back on that, right? It's your program.
Indeed.
So then the next match was Anna Jay and Ty Meloconti against Willow Nightingale and Ruby Soho. And they went a while. And of course, even in the girls' match, they used chairs in the finish. Chairs in the girls' match. So I get now the guys need to use hand grenades. All right, we were ready for the main event. What?
Anna Jay is one of the best-looking women in all pro wrestling, certainly in AEW. No close-ups. I'm watching this match thinking, let's get a close-up of her. Never.
That's your biggest complaint.
That was my biggest complaint
about this match. Just to not have this inflicted on me, I would have been more than happy to stare close up at Mae Young's face for hours at a time, rather than not have to see this match. But the main event was beckoning us, Brian. In the Booker of the Year's ultimate wisdom, Tony Khan has decided that the best way to rehabilitate Wardlow's sagging popularity after they've completely fumbled the ball with his booking and put him in a goddamn angle with miscellaneous fake security guards, is to put him in a program with Samoa Joe. And I am not trying to look a gift horse in the mouth because they're pushing Joe. They're giving Joe promo time. They're giving Joe wins on TV. Joe has had a bigger push than almost any other name that has come into this company over the past 2 years that, debuts to resounding defeats and then is largely forgotten. So they're doing the right thing with Joe. I don't think in a million years I would have dreamed that the great program to have to continue Joe's push and to rehabilitate Wardlow was to put them together. Because Wardlow had size going for him, size and power and the ability to overpower and dominate physically his opponents, kind of a Goldberg or Road Warrior type of appeal, especially in the land of Lilliput that is AEW. When you put him against a guy that's so much heavier and just almost as tall, and obviously more experienced and more powerful in the way that Samoa Joe is more experienced in wrestling, therefore he is able to show his power more because he's developed things that work for him that he does. Wardlow not only can't muscle him around like he could the smaller guys, but now Wardlow, he can uncork those run up the ropes and flip type things and the movements that you wouldn't think that a guy that size can do. But that's it. This visual and this style of match that they have to have, Joe and Wardlow, I don't think is right for Wardlow's strong points. And Joe can do the best job for him he can and giving him whatever. But Wardlow is still green and doesn't really know how to take care of himself. And some of the things you can't tell somebody in a situation where Wardlow, like he was trying to sell the leg through this whole match, because the DOA got attacked by the lead pipe at the start or in the promo. And then Joe comes out and says he's got stage fright, he can't wrestle, but here comes Wardlow out and he's limping. And the security's chasing him, but he's going to get in the ring and fight. Okay, that's a great babyface thing. We've talked about that before. But the problem is, they've left him almost 15 minutes for Wardlow, green as he is, has never been put in this position. We're on national television. He's got to sell a bad leg and still keep fighting. And he was working hard, but sometimes he'd fire up and forget to limp. And then he'd lean down and he'd start punching his leg. Brian, I've blown 2 ACLs and torn cartilage numerous times in my knees. Never have I had the, urge to punch either one of them.
That was Heyman's move against you at the Bash.
Yeah, but he couldn't get the right one. But anyway, Joe stayed in control, but Wardlow's inexperienced at selling because he's a big guy and then fighting from underneath and staying alive, but not taken back over. And they gave him a lot of time to do this. And again, finally Wardlow, he's been selling the leg that was attacked with a lead pipe like an hour previously. But then Joe has got him where he's going to try to give him the fucking deal off the ropes, but Wardlow ducks underneath him and scoops him up. He stands up under him and he's got the power bomb and he fucking power bombs him and his legs are fine. He's just carried Joe from the turnbuckle to the middle of the ring and power bombed him. Now he gets up and tries a second one, and as he tries to pick him up, he doesn't even get him off the ground and his leg fucking goes out. So which is it? But then Joe clips the bad knee, gets the rear naked choke, and Wardlow goes to sleep. I guess they don't want Wardlow to fucking tap. Okay, I'll just choke him out.
Can I jump in real quick here?
Yes, please.
The booking of Wardlow has been puzzling for a long time. This is not a new thing. And earlier in the night when he got kneecapped, It's like, okay, what's this? Maybe they're going to do something where he's going into this title match at a disadvantage. The fans finally get into it, and Wardlow finally wins back his belt. We could repair him, and it won't hurt Joe. It won't hurt Joe at all. And I think the fans got into it by the end of it, expecting there was going to be a title change.
Yes, because all signs pointed to that logically.
And they were ready to explode for it. And then this was the finish. And it was puzzling. And I'm trying to think, okay, I don't know how the booker would justify this and killing Wardlow, making him look worse. Just killing him again. Then it went even further.
Here we go. So then Wardlow, who went to sleep and lost the match, Joe is up. Joe's celebrating. Wardlow gets up, comes back to consciousness, gets up, stands there, looks straight at Joe, and Joe takes the title belt and whacks Wardlow over the head with it and knocks him out. Oh, my God.
And
he didn't do it from behind. He didn't do it from behind. He didn't do it by, they were looking at each other. And here, bam. And now Wardlow's down and knocked out. And this time he's motionless for the rest of the program. And Joe gets out on the floor. And he gets the toolbox out from under the ring. And apparently they told him, well, Joe, the scissors are going to be in the toolbox. Well, he takes the tray out of the top of the tool and looks through, and he can't find the scissors because the scissors are in the tray. And then he drops the toolbox. He's looking under the ring again. And then finally he picks up the tray and he gets scissors in a toolbox. I mean, they're listening to the show. We always say, what should be under the ring? A toolbox. I just didn't know you kept scissors and thread and pinking shears and in the toolbox. But what would you use scissors for on a wrestling ring, Brian?
In case the rope is too long when you put it together and you have to cut off a few feet of the top rope.
Yeah, you try to cut one of those ropes, whether it's a cable or a rope, with a pair of scissors and get back to me in a couple of years. Anyway, so he takes the scissors out. And he rolls in, and Wardlow is still motionless, and he cuts Wardlow's ponytail off. And the people are going, So there's so many things going on here. Yes, you were correct. One scenario is the heel attacks the babyface before the match and kneecaps him to take him out of it. But the babyface refuses to give up his chance at the title, and he comes out and he wrestles with the bad leg, and he wins and overcomes the odds. He gets a huge pop, gets the babyface over. It doesn't hurt the heel because then he can jump on him afterwards. Or you can have the long-awaited match between the heel and the babyface, and the heel can use the lead pipe or whatever the fuck to fuck the heel or fuck the babyface in the finish. And then the babyface can fucking maybe even fire back up and bump the heel around, but the heel won. Or you can do combinations of those, but the heel needs to win the match if he's going to get his hair cut off afterwards. Or the babyface. See, I'm so confused now. What has happened here? The heel attacked the babyface with a lead pipe. The babyface wrestled anyway, and the heel beat him clean. He just fucking choked him out. He didn't cheat. And then the heel waited for the babyface to get up and look at him, and then knocked him out again. And then the heel cut all the babyface's hair off. Again, why not piss in his mouth while he was down there?
Yeah, it's harder. How do you even make a babyface look weaker? He got nothing. He got nothing.
Well, I'll tell you how. You just show the people exactly how weak he is, because then here came Darby Allin, and he rolled in the ring and hit Joe one shot with a skateboard, and Joe took a bump to the floor and ran off with a look of fucking fear and consternation.
Thank God Darby was there to save Wardlow.
So the other way that you do it is after you have kneecapped the babyface and then beaten him clean in the match and then knocked him out face to face and then cut all his hair off, you send a guy half his size in to fucking beat up the guy that just did all that with one shot. So now Wardlow is Darby Allin's little buddy, since Sting is somewhere, wherever it may be. Yep.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite.
Yeah.
Apparently a new look when we see Dynamite this coming week.
I'll tell you what, I would change my name too. If I had done that last week, I'd grow a beard, I'd bleach my hair, and I'd change my name. Make sure they can't recognize me after that program. So yeah, we can't wait for a new look. Maybe they'll get a new roster and a new booker.
Well, Jim, to make the save, Darby Allin, to save his friend Wardlow from complete and utter humiliation after the total humiliation he had, he came down the entranceway, his music played. What if he had come out of a box?
He would have been over, because anybody that comes out of a box gets over, and anything that comes out of a box gets over, ladies and gentlemen. It's just common human nature. It's as plain as the nose on your face, Matthew, because everybody likes a surprise, right? Everybody likes opening something up. Everybody likes opening up a box. Well, I've had many boxes that I've just enjoyed opening over the years, and I'll tell you what now, folks, you can have your very own once a month if you want it, with Box of Awesome from Bespoke Post. Now, is it bespoke or bespoke? To what should I accentuate there, Brian?
Well, I think it depends on the country and the land you're from. The pronunciation could be different, so I think for this week, for this episode, you're safe. But going forward, we may have some clarification.
We may have clarification. Well, nevertheless, don't even worry about Bespoke Post. Worry about boxofawesome.com. Everybody knows how to say that, boxofawesome.com, because what they're doing here, these folks from Bespoke, they are taking hand-curated items from small businesses that you might never have heard of otherwise, that are in various places around the country. It could be cozy essentials. It could be travel must-haves. It could be cocktail kits. It could be collector's knives. They've got a variety.
Yeah.
Knives. Men like knives, don't they?
Oh, I love knives, yeah.
Yes. Well, you could even do a funny voice about it before we went on the air. But anyway, nevertheless, folks, whatever you want, you go to boxofawesome.com and you take a quiz, and your answers help them pick the right box of awesome for you, filled with awesomeness. And they release new boxes every month, and it's across a ton of different categories. That's why you take the quiz. Let's say you're not interested, for example, in, I don't know, phony IDs from Colombia and Peru. Then you wouldn't check that.
Then you would be safe using bespoke.com or boxofawesome.com, because that is not one of the options.
They don't sell phony IDs from Colombia and Peru?
Certainly not. Certainly. They do not sell
all the phony IDs are from right here in this country.
There are no phony IDs on their website. They don't have any IDs. You cannot buy IDs. That is illegal.
You can buy people, but not their identity. You can own them, but you can't own their trademarks and their intellectual property.
What are you saying? No, you can't.
Well, never. Anyway, you go and you take the quiz at boxofawesome.com. And if there's some people on there that you'd like to put in a box and have sent to you, then you click that or you check that or whatever the case. But the more important thing is each box is valued at around $70, but you pay a fraction of that price because it's awesome. And with each box of awesome, you're also supporting these small businesses, because 90% of everything that comes in your box and 90% of everybody that comes in your box of awesome, that is from a small up-and-coming brand of a small business, a family-owned type of store or type of thing like that. You're supporting the little people out there who are awesome. And it's free to sign up. You can skip a month. You can cancel anytime. But you're going to get, I'm telling you, you're going to get tons of boxes, and you're going to love opening them up and seeing the awesomeness that comes out. And all you got to do right now is go to boxofawesome.com and enter the code JCE at checkout, and you'll get 20% off your first monthly box. 20% off a box is not bad. Boxofawesome.com, JCE, 20% off your first box, courtesy of the code JCE. And I mean, they sent some lists of stuff. They've got a box of knives. Holy mackerel. You could be cut long, wide, deep, and repeatedly with these knives. So if you're going into hand-to-hand gang warfare, they've got all kinds of tools and
why not do it stylishly is what you're saying. Why not do it with style?
Stylishly. And this box even comes with hot sauce and barbecue rub in with the knives. So you can kill the animal and you can rub it with barbecue rub and cook it over an open fire, or you can sauce it up.
You can even start the fire using stuff that you get from boxofawesome.com.
Yes. Well, we didn't start the fire, but it's always burning since the world's been turning.
You a Billy Joel fan? Are you a Billy Joel fan?
Of course. How could you not be a fan of Billy Joel, the Piano Man? You can't get him in this box, but you might be able to buy his identity if you hurry. Boxofawesome.com, code JCE for 20% off your first box of whatever the box may contain. You determine that based on your preferences. It's all going to be awesome. But the flavor and style and shape and content and materialness of the awesomeness is up to your specifications based on your quiz. They want to give you things you want.